to just, that's an excellent summary, Owen, thank you. And we haven't met for a couple months because of the summer, but I think that's a brief history of what we've been working on. The most significant change is that the number one difficulty that everyone in the community cited was the Brownsville Shopping Center and the fact that it's now been paved and striped and brought into code compliance is a big step that all of us said was a very important element. I will also tell you that from the planning board's perspective, there is a plan that is before the board by Browns Mills Shopping Center to amend their plan slightly, and in that amendment, of course, will be a more specific time frame of when they are going to finish, because what they've done is only have done a stopgap measure, which is to respond to the court, who ultimately put the pressure on them to pave their parking lot and bring all the building items up to code. That's my understanding. I believe that's the case. Okay. So at this point, they still have a deal with Rite Aid to put a freestanding Rite Aid there, and a deal with Dunkin' Donuts for a freestanding Dunkin' Donuts. And there is a significant landscape improvement package that's also part of their approval. That landscape improvement package is still subject to a county approval. And they have not, to my knowledge, received their county approval yet, because some of their parking extends into the newly expanded and widened county right-of-way. So they have to negotiate their responsibility with the county, and those items have apparently taken them a little bit longer. But if you remember, we sat here last December and we couldn't get on to any other subject. That was the subject that was stopping everything, and at least there's been some modicum of progress there, and I think that's something that we all collectively took part in making happen. So congratulations to everyone on that. Another item that Owen touched on was the fact that we have taken different portions of the streetscape and identified those in a piecemeal fashion. We're now working on putting them all together into one comprehensive package. And then recently I was doing some traveling and visited some of the new traditional neighborhood designs in Florida, Kansas, and a few other places. And one of the things that pops out that we're missing so far in our downtown of Browns Mills is a central focus, central gathering point. So part of this branding is to do two things. Not only come up with a logo, which a lot of people consider an important branding idea, but perhaps even some architectural iconic events. And by that I mean it could be a specific tower, it could be a specific set of monuments as you come into Browns Mills, you know, the welcome to Browns Mills, or it could be a piece of sculpture that has been crafted to represent the history and reflect the kind of architecture in the Victorian setting of some of the old buildings. Now, in addition to that, we are, of course, directly adjacent to Fort Dix and McGuire. And to the extent that we have that relationship, needs to be fostered so that we get more economic bang for our dollar in our downtown shopping area. Our current restaurant and businesses get a huge lunch trade out of the military, but we're not capturing as much evening trade. We're not capturing enough of the weekend trade to really give our businesses a boost. So, if you remember, we've talked about a bunch of ideas about the bass fishing, about putting putting boats on the lake, taking one of the buildings down by the lake and making it something that would be a vehicle for encouraging canoeing and other recreation activities on the lake, to bring people in to the community on the weekends. The ice cream shop, the nice place to walk around, and the nice little village setting. So what we're looking at doing now is seeing if, in addition to the streetscape components that we put together, if we can't create a point or several locations of where it would be fun for people to gather and have a series of stores around that little gathering spot that would give the feeling of a comfortable tourist place that has the coffee shop, the ice cream shop, the gift shops that make something happen. Now, in Florida, for example, I came across this recently, where they created a little town green, and because they weren't clear about how well they were going to do, they put up very small buildings of 600 square feet, 800 square feet, and they were cute little, they were almost like doll shops, because they were so small. They could have been, enlarged privies in the old day, because they're quite small. But the point was that you would go in and you would shop, and you would be part of that little town experience. And as that town grew, and as those retailers got more customers, they went to a bigger store on the fringe of that circle. And ultimately, those little sheds were taken away because there was enough viability to make something happen. So if it takes stages, and we hadn't really talked about this before, we hadn't really talked about the notion of doing a town center in stages. But I just throw that out as another possibility, because one of my favorite sayings is you can't eat an elephant in one bite. And you have to nip away at creating the market and make the market respond. The other thing that we talked about was whether or not we had enough critical mass to support certain stores. We discussed that at the last meeting. And we had a list that will be in our report. And it said that there's a possibility that we could support a second food store. Certainly the Aldi's, we've been back to Aldi's, they were suggested as a possibility by one of the members, and we went out and contacted them, and they said we'd like to be at a light, traffic light, on a corner, and we want 4 acres, and we'll come. Well, show me where I got a light with 4 acres left.
We got 6 acres, no light.
We don't have it yet. Don't have it yet. So one of the things we're going to recommend as part of the overall master plan is seeing how we can expand our zoning and maybe create some additional opportunities for larger users.
Rick, was it 2 acres or 4 acres?
I thought it was 2.
Was it 2? Stand corrected. But I don't want to just build them. I want, if people are all coming to them, we want some other stores right next to them, so we can build some synergy in there. They're only about 15 to 20,000 feet they can fit on 2.5 acres.